we age, our hearing degrades. So why is it that we don't perceive that the music we listen to sounds worse and worse as we get older? Well, let's take a look at this. Age, our ability to learn to listen and hear higher frequencies degrades quite a bit. I've done a whole video on this subject, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but just for review, as your ears age, your hearing threshold for higher frequencies drops off dramatically. And take a look at the chart and see where you're at. But as you get quite older, it starts dropping off at 1 kHz. When you're younger, it's not too bad. It'll start dropping off at about 10 kHz. But as we age, we definitely hear the music differently. But yet it still sounds good. One of the answers is the way we perceive audio in our brain. Think about when you're a child and you first hear a saxophone and you're presented with an image of the saxophone. You correlate those two things in your brain. And as you go through life, you'll hear saxophone after saxophone, and you'll hear different qualities of saxophone, from the little book that just, put out some cheap sound of a saxophone to a very, very, good performance live. So you get this range of qualities that you perceive. Now, these, range of qualities vary from individual to individual. A layman may have one range of qualities for the saxophone, while maybe an audiophile who has spent more time studying live music has a little broader range. So the different possibilities that we hear for a saxophone vary quite a bit from individual to individual. Now here's where things get interesting. So as we age, we just don't hear that saxophone like we used to hear it, because our hearing threshold changes for the upper frequencies. But our frame of reference doesn't change. So we still have a belief that we know a good sounding sax all the way down to a poor sounding sax. But the more we listen as we age, we're unable to hear that, quote, good sounding sax quite as good as we did before. Now, but we don't miss what we don't miss. I mean, that's just the way it is. Instead, if you were to take a pair of young ears and slap them on a 70-year-old, the 70-year-old probably would be quite surprised, even though he thought he was hearing, a good saxophone all along. And then, the converse would probably be true. If you took those 70-year-olds' ears and put them on a 20-year-old's, the 20-year-olds would probably go right away, well, that doesn't sound like a good sax at all. It's missing some highs, et cetera, et cetera. Then, of course, we can fall into a trap. I mean, I know I do this. When I hear a saxophone and I want to judge its quality, certainly I rely on memory, but I will always go back and refer to what I call reference audio tracks of what I thought were good saxophones. So, I have a lot of test audio tracks that I use for a number of things: soundstage, imaging, all sorts of stuff. And when I rehear that with older ears, I reinforce my frame of reference as to what the upper bounds of quality is. So you're not hearing it as well as you used to hear it, but yet you know that when you used to hear it, that was the best you'd ever heard. So you're kind of reinforcing in your mind what the new quality saxophone sounds like, even though you're going to be missing some of the highs. So our reference point gets degraded as we reintroduce old reference tracks and reinforce that was the best sound I've ever heard, when in reality, go back to the ear replacement example, that reference track to the 20-year-old ears would sound a lot different than to the 70-year-old's ears. Now, does this matter? And the answer is no, it doesn't. If you think through the little thought experiment we played here, um, your frame of reference changes as you age because it's being reinforced. And therefore, we continue to hear what we think is the best music we've ever heard, at least in some cases, with our reference tracks. Uh, you know, that's where we reinforce it. So it doesn't really matter because we hear what we hear and we like what we hear, and that's how it all works. But we should at least be honest with ourselves. I mean, our older ears do not hear what younger ears hear. So if you run across, I demo my stereo occasionally, and if someone were to say to me with 20-year-old ears is, that's good saxophone, but I've heard better, likely he has with his ears. So I should pay attention to that.